Evening, everybody. Hope you're doing well. Looks like our audio levels are good. Wanted to make sure we got that. Friends and neighbors, it's another Monday night, so we're going to go through some questions. Try to get my screen lined up here and try to give you the best information that I can. A lot of news going on in terms of the channel. What you saw today was a new review from Dan Harms that came out this morning. Dan does some good work, has a little bit different take on things than I do, so I want to give you another perspective, and I hope that you enjoy that. I certainly do, because just having myself to talk to, I go a little stir crazy every now and then. A lot going on in terms of anticipation for Pat Mahomes, Chris Jones, those kind of things. And that's why I put Pat on the cover tonight, because Pat is the key, and running it back is the hashtag, but it's the focus of this team, and everything has to come from him in terms of getting his contract done. I think that plays into a lot of why it's been so quiet about Chris Jones, because you got to keep an eye on the future and what that's going to represent when you get down to trying to keep the both of them on contract on this particular roster. And it's going to get tighter. There's a lot of questions right now about when fans are going to be able to see games live, what ticket sales are going to be like, and that kind of thing. So it's a little iffy. If you're new to the channel, make sure you hit the sub button right now before you forget. Leave your comment below if you're watching this on replay, meaning that it's not Monday night. If you're in the chat, welcome. Our fearless mod is here, Aaron Morrow. Thank you, Aaron, for everything that you do. Make sure that you hit the little notification bell so you know when something new happens, as well as a thumbs up. Thumbs up always help us. It makes us more viable on the platform that YouTube is. If you want to support the channel, the super chats are open. Feel free. Don't feel obligated. That's perfectly fine. They should be working. I'm not seeing them on my end because I rarely do. But for those of you that do, if you ask a question and you want to get the super chat to support the channel, feel free. Make sure you ask the question, though, so I can get you something for it right away. Small update on memberships. I'm starting to develop the logos. I have a couple of new things. We're going to have some membership levels about what you're going to get. One of them will include the very entry level will have some specific icons and emojis and stuff that YouTube always puts at the entry level for memberships that you can use in these chats, and it kind of sets you apart as a regular one that's earned it and become part of the membership. So folks are starting to arrive now. We'll get into the questions. I saw one up top, and Cole Keeler was the first one. How are you, Cole? What section do you typically sit in when you go to Arrowhead? I generally, in years past, I would be down on the 100 level. I used to aim for about the 20-yard line. When my brother had season tickets, he had row one of the top section. So that was always fun too. Now when I go, I'm a little more selective. I want to have the right angle so that I can see the 22. And so I can watch live and have reaction and analysis for you guys when I stream, either in the car on the way home or sitting out in the parking lot or whatever. And I usually make it to a game or two a season. Don't know about this season. Everything's kind of up in the air. I don't know if I'm going to even make it to training camp this year because of travel, et cetera. Not living in the area, that changes a few things. But when I go, right now, the last couple of times I've been in 231 and 235 and 217 the last couple of years. So close to the front of those sections, you get the overhang, and so you're closer to the action than you are at the top of the first level, and you're high enough that I can see the whole field and I can see the all 22 angle live and be able to make a few more notes when that happens. So that's what I've been liking, and that's what I aim for. I run into some people up there, but I always go and kind of make the rounds and see everybody sitting amongst my friends and cohorts, other guys that cover the game and the team. So you can always find me somewhere. I usually end up in lot D for my tailgating. My brother usually does up a nice pan of ribs and stuff. So keep it simple, but it works. So that's the plan. Ian Roberts, how are you? Any injury rehab news on Marcus Camper-Juan Thornhill? Also, do you think Camp will remain in KC since he's such a staple of the special teams unit? He is definitely a staple, Ian. He is not currently on the roster, though. So it remains to be seen. I think a team might give him a chance before the Chiefs do. The Chiefs are pretty stacked at what are going to be special teams contributors. And we don't know where Marcus is. I haven't seen any update on his rehab. I know that he was working, but that's all that I know. What we have seen is an update from Juan Thornhill that via social media that he feels that he's on track to where he would have been, meaning that July 1st wasn't a crazy number. And that's great to hear. Don't know if July 1st means anything anymore because camp is not there. Forgot to do this before any of the guys joined that are interested. This is my Belgian triple made here at altitude. So cheers to you guys. Happy Monday. I'm a fan of Belgian beers, and I'm trying to get better at making them. So Juan Thornhill, I think, is going to be key long term. I don't think he's missed anything yet because he wouldn't have been there for OTAs. I think Filmroom he can do on his own. So I feel like if anyone has not really skipped a beat in this COVID response, it's Juan Thornhill. So good for him. I think that helps him get back. If he's resting and rehabbing it and not trying to push it too early, the fact that maybe he tried to run at OTAs, it looks like according to social media he's cleared to run now. Not pushing that, I think, really helps him. So good for him. I think that puts him in position to, again, be ready when they are able to get back together for training camp. I'm really interested to see if training camp is even allowed to have fans. I don't know that that's going to be the case, you guys. It would be a shame, especially for Western, but I don't know. If they do, because of my family situation, those kind of things, I might not even be able to make it. So we'll have to find that out. We'll definitely recoup. It'll be the first training camp that I've missed in quite a long time. So we'll cross that bridge when we get there. Next question. Christina Organian. Sorry. Hopefully I said that right. Thanks, Christina. Nice to see the ladies in the chat. Not very many of you, so welcome. Did Willie Gay really get 600 yards rushing in 2 games in high school? I heard that from an Andy Reid video. I heard the same thing. I couldn't find his stats. I'm going to go with what Coach Reid said. He's got the speed for it. And from what he has said, and I have caught some interviews at Miss State and some of the things that he's been this fast most of his career. So I do feel like it's certainly likely. Whether he gets a shot at that, you never know. Mike Vrabel caught a couple of passes in his day. Linebackers playing on offense is not unheard of. If you're going to run something special, line him up as a fullback and drift him out, H-back kind of thing, hey, maybe that's something he can do. Another twist of a defensive player getting a couple of snaps on offense that Andy Reid likes to do. So I think that's pretty cool. Let's see who's next. Remember, folks, if you're new to the chat, hit a couple of the question marks before your question. Helps me find them in all of the chat comments here. So that said, Mako's next. How much confidence do you have that the defensive coaching staff can turn Willie Gay into a solid linebacker? I think he's already a solid linebacker. I don't think they have to do much honing there. I do think that they have to help him be instinctual against the run and know where to go. I do think they have to train him to take better angles and not rely on his athleticism, because stepping up to the NFL is going to tax his athleticism. He's a very, very good athlete. Nothing to take away from him, but everybody's a good athlete at the NFL level. So there's going to be a growing curve, a learning curve. That's not abnormal, but I do think that Matt House is a very good coach. I like coaches that have head coaching experience coming back to the positions in the NFL because I think it gives them a respect for the overall picture, but lets them focus on what their player's part of. I think that's going to be a really nice pairing. Willie's got to have some leadership in the room too. He's had some off-field things. I think they're well aware of that, and I think being in the room with Anthony Hitchens and Damien Wilson is going to help him. He'll get there. Hot and Spicy Mobile, how are you, buddy? Can you see CEH being the number 1 running back later in the season? Yes, later in the season, I definitely could. I don't think he's a starter to begin with. I think the job's Damien's. I think the Chiefs like him. They're going to use CEH to spell him. I think Clyde's going to get plenty of reps even early in the season. I just don't think you have to name a starter. This team really is a little bit snake bit because of all the injuries over the last few years to Shakandrick, to Spencer. All kinds of guys have gotten dinged up, and Damien Williams is one of them. He doesn't come back necessarily super quick either. So there's definitely opportunity, I think, for Clyde to be a starter mid-season-ish when Damien gets a little banged up, a little bit run down. So I won't put that past him at all. Let's see. Who's next? Nathan Roth, how are you? Will there be college football? That is a very good question. I've heard from a couple of people that cover college that they're starting to doubt it. And if that's the case, then I'm going to have to go right back to the 2019 film and start digging out juniors, which is always a tough one for when you go to YouTube, you go to Exos, you go to some places that give you cut-ups. They're for seniors. They're marked for seniors. In fact, I'm going to give you guys a review, a partial review, at least, of Jerry Sneed. And I don't have any Sneed film. I had to go look up Amik Robertson because same team, but all the highlights are, Amik Robertson. And I'm going to have to really point out and show you guys where L'Jarius is. So that's always a problem. If they don't have a season, it's going to be a lot of review, and we're going to have a lot of time to go over it. And I will definitely give you, along with Dan, we'll dig in and give you a ton of background. Hot and spicy, which UDFA do you think will have the biggest impact? That's a tough one. I can see Darryl Williams making this roster as a rookie. I could see Lavert Hill pushing to make this roster as a rookie. I could even see Lipscomb push for a 6th wide receiver spot. Those are the top 3 options in my mind. Davis could push. A number of the smaller guys, like there's 17 wide receiver returners in this UDFA group. Any of them, if they get with Dave Tobe and get into the system and start making runbacks, there's always a chance. So that's what I would lean towards watching right away, but that's just for now. When they hit the field, we'll know a lot more. Terry Spurman, cut Darryl Williams for cap space. No, I think Darryl's only like 1.1 against the cap, maybe not even that. I don't think you save enough, and I think right now they're really wanting to stock up on the running back so that they can go through the season and not feel like they're plugging them in. With Damien hurt last year and Mccoy hurt last year, I think they felt a little bit exposed at that position. So I don't see them cutting Darryl. I think it comes down to Washington and Darwin Thompson. I think they're going to carry 4. They're going to try to get the next guy back to the practice squad. So I think it might be Darwin that in the end is able to be cut but retained as a practice squad player and then called up if you get too many injuries at the position. It seems like they're pretty concerned about the longevity and using running backs in rotation so that they can avoid getting themselves down. They want a playmaker on the field at the position, no matter who it happens to be. And I think Darryl's shown them enough, particularly in the passing game. I think they're pleasantly surprised with what he's been able to do catching the ball. So I wouldn't think so, but you never know. Curtis Douglas, Adam Schefter reported that there is no fans. It will cost each team about 30 to 80 million cap reduction in the 2021, in the 21 to 22 season. Thoughts? And that's, Curtis, what I'm going after. Again, talked a little about this on the Locked On Chiefs podcast. That should be out. Yeah, it's after. So it's up. I'll have that on the RGR podcast channel tomorrow too. Check that out. It's audio only. But part of that is, there's a chance that for the very first time in the modern era, the last 10 years, 15 years, that the cap could go down. And that's why you're not seeing the Chris Jones contract. That's why you're not seeing the Pat Mahomes contract yet. The 5th-year extension for Pat is normal. It is worst case scenario. It keeps him under contract. It's perfectly safe. They can't really make a big investment, I don't think, until they know what that cap number is going to look like. And you're right. I think it is going to fall in there if they can't get fans in seats. And that's really what it comes down to. So that's the concern for the league. And that's why I think the Chiefs haven't signed any free agent corners. They haven't made any progress on the Chris Jones contract. And we're not even really talking about Pat's contract yet. They've said that in the next 12 to 15 months, right? Well, I think that's a nice way of saying, hey, we know it's important, but it's on the back burner right now because we can't afford to really do it until we know what we can spend. If they were to give Pat the reported 40 to 45 million and sign him now, and the cap goes down by even, let's take the middle, $55 million less, you're talking about cutting Frank, talking about cutting 6 or 7 other players in order to get under the cap because of that one contract that right now you can have for, what is it, 11 or whatever it's going to be for Patrick's 5th-year option. It's just too much to take a risk on in losing your roster for what is a team at the very top of the game right now. Very good point, Curtis. Firefighter Farmer, any thoughts on what we're about to do with the corner situation? I don't think trades in the future. I don't think anybody's going to give anything up for Chris Jones. And I think that's the only player that you can feel comfortable trading, except maybe Damien Williams. But like I said, I don't think that that's what they want to do. I do think that they could go free agent. A lot of it depends on Bashaud Breeland, too. I mean, I don't know when his arraignment or hearing is. That may shed some light, too. Like I said, I think there's a couple of options still out there. Nothing's happened with Logan Ryan or Eli Apple. I think those are the two premier that give you investment-worthy options. There are some others. I think Cyrus is out there. You never know if they can rehab him. I mean, there's enough. So we'll see what comes of it. But I don't see anything happening anytime soon until they have a better idea of what the fall fan participation is going to be in stadiums and how much money they're going to make. Norman Schreck, with Breeland gone, apparently who's going to take on his role? They like Rashad Fenton. I like him outside. I think he can play out there. But it's going to be him and Snead, as far as I can tell right now. I don't think you'll hear something from Matt Derrick today that contradicts that about how they feel. I don't feel that a player that's only played special teams to this point in his career can walk in and start for a Super Bowl champion. So I do feel that it's better to give the rookies in Bo Pete and particularly L'Jarius Snead an opportunity to play with Rashad Fenton and Travarius Ward. That's my thought. C. Spencer, do you think the Bills are overrated? Almost every analyst I've seen has us losing to them. I don't know about losing to them. That's still a stretch. As far as I'm concerned, you're the champ until somebody beats you. But they are good, and I like what they've done with their roster. So, I mean, they are certainly a team that you have to be wary of, and you have to be respectful of what they've done. I do think that's legit, but I don't know that I'm picking against the Chiefs in that game. It still comes down to whether they can score points with the Chiefs. And as good as that defense looks on paper, they still have to come together. There's a lot of moving pieces and young players on there, so you never know. I don't feel like they've played an offense like the Chiefs in quite a while. And as much as I like White, their corner, he's awesome, but he's one player. And the rest, I don't know that at the end of the day, if you can get enough pressure to stop the Chiefs' passing attack. So that's what it comes down to. Let's see. Why hasn't anyone signed Logan Ryan yet? Because he wants a ton of money, Nathan. He wants to be paid like a top 15 corner, and he's going to hold on to that right now. And quite frankly, I just don't think any team wants to spend money now until they know what the cap is going to do. So that's really where it comes down to it. Natalie Eggleston, thank you for your super chat. I appreciate that. Please come back and ask a question, though. And I'll make sure that I answer it for you. And Kansas Carolina, do we have cap space to sign our draft picks and undrafted free agents? Right now, I think the cap number's at about 6.53, and I do estimate that is enough, barely. I think they'll have a couple grand to spare, maybe 20 grand, something like that. I think it's 6.1 to get the class done. UDFAs, I think, are mostly cash, so I don't think they're going to impact the bottom line. So I think they're good. C. Spencer, are you surprised that neither the Saints or Bucks games will be prime time? I am a little bit, and what that Saints game is late enough, I think, that they could be flexed in. And honestly, I got to tell you, Tom Brady and Gronk are great. I don't know that makes them, they're not a 12-win team on paper to me, just because you got Tom Brady. I don't know. We'll see. You guys heard the crossover last week. Like I think that they're better than they were, but I don't know that makes them a favorite of any kind. But that's how I feel. Jake from Allstate. Alec, thank you very much for your super chat. As always, Jake, you are one of the prime performers around here, and I appreciate that very much. Your question is, what do you think of drafting Clyde Edwards-Helaire has done to Damien Williams' mindset coming into the season? Like if he takes it as a slap in the face kind of thing. I would be fairly certain that he does. You have to remember that he was probably the runner-up in the MVP voting for the Super Bowl. I can't see any other way that a guy who's been a starter, who has played that role, who has played big games in the playoffs 2 years in a row, has scored for you, and been a guy that has put you over the top. I can't see any way where he doesn't take that as a slap in the face. But I will say this. I think Damien Williams has lingered on the injury list a little too long at times. I think that he has been slow to return from injury, and I think, quite frankly, a motivated, pissed off Damien Williams is about the best thing that the Chiefs can get from him. Letting him be comfortable, I think, is probably a mistake, and I think drafting a guy that's going to push him immediately is a good thing for the team. May not be on personal relationships, but that's a problem I don't have to deal with. So that comes down to the team. C. Spencer, will a shortened offseason be an advantage for the Chiefs? Yes, because especially on offense, because they're just hitting the ground running basically with the same team. With so many returning starters, the defense could use it to come together. The secondary in particular, especially if Breeland's not out there. If Breeland's not out there, Charvarius Ward is your leader in the corner room. I don't know that he's an outspoken guy. My impression of him is that he's not a vocal leader. Young players need to be led. So I see that as a bit of a problem. And it would behoove them to have that time to come together in the preseason, is my opinion. AC Phillips, do you see much playing time for Breeland Speaks or Dorian Daniels? Oh, Daniel. Sorry, I always say that wrong. I'm really, really interested. The fact that they drafted Willie Gay means that they don't see Dorian stepping into a bigger role, in my opinion. I think they feel that Ben Eman is a decent nickel corner. I don't know if they see him progressing enough to become a starter eventually. So that puts it right now in the nickel. I think Hitch and Wilson have to start the preseason, offseason, whatever it is. Whenever they first get there, they'll be 1 and 2, even in the nickel. It'll be whether Willie Gay can catch on to the defense fast enough to become one of those guys where it's him and Hitch. And then it'll be what kind of time does Dorian Daniel get? Now, Breeland Speaks, on the other hand, is a completely different scenario. And for him, I think it's all about the injury. If he's healthy and ready to go and rehabbed and in shape, I think he walks into the rotation right with Alex Okafor, right with K-Pass. Mike Dan, I think, is a really nice pick. I don't know that he's ready to push to be a number 2 backup, to be the guy that comes in when Frank goes out. Could Breeland Speaks push for that? Possibly. Again, it just depends on what kind of shape he's done, what he's done with his rehab. Honestly, it's all on Breeland Speaks as far as I'm concerned. Nathan Roth, will Drew Lock or Herbert be a better quarterback? I like Herbert, so I'm a little biased. I think Drew Lock's very good. I don't know if he has had to see the things that Herbert has. I think he's more confident, and I think he's a better leader. So it's 6-1. Who's going to become the better quarterback? I think probably Herbert. Who's going to become the better leader and lead his team to better outcomes like championships? I think that might be Lock. Although Lock having to play Mahomes is a really tough road to a championship. So maybe he only gets to a consistent playoff team. But still, I think Lock's probably the better, more vocal, more charismatic leader type. And maybe that in the end of the day allows him to achieve more things as a team. Chris Weissman, with the probable absence of Breeland. Looks like that question didn't actually finish. Yeah, I think Fenton's your number 2 guy right now then. Let's see. Chris. Oh, there. Okay, there's Chris again. With the probable absence of Breeland, how do you think the defense? I think it's going to be interesting. I do feel, and Dan and I are going to debate this, I think, this week. I do feel they have to play more zone to protect the young guys, including Fenton a little bit. And I don't think that necessarily hurts them. I think it'll make them give up more yards. And it might make them give up more points. I think Breeland is strong. I think he is a guy that can jam at the line. I like Fenton, but I don't think he's so refined in that. So he and Ward are the kind of the jammers. I think Sneak can jam if he wants to. He's got really nice long arms. He's got to get a little stronger, though. And as a rookie playing, I think that's going to be a little tough. Morbian 13, are the Chiefs bound for the Super Bowl repeat? Yes, they are the odds-on favorites because nobody's had an offseason. I do feel that they are one of the favorites, along with the Niners and along with the Saints. Um, yeah, I'm trying to think of who's going to really push them in the AFC. It's not the Patriots anymore, in my opinion. It's them and the Ravens, as far as I'm concerned, and we'll see what comes of it. Montana Leonard, would you take the chance of buying tickets early in the season like the opener? I would not. I think they're going to take care of you either way. But for me, having to travel there, usually by plane, because I don't have the 11 hours each way to really get it done in a weekend, I wouldn't take that chance myself. Big test. What do you think is the ceiling for the defense this season? I think that they can pick up pretty close to where they left off. We have to remember that they didn't really make a big push to get top end cornerbacks last season either, and yet they won a Super Bowl. So I think that where they end up last year, was it 19th or something overall? I think they can push for 12 to 16, something like that, like upper half, let's call it, but not top 10. That's where I think it's probably going. See Spencer, can you see losing any games in our AFC West opponents, or do we steamroll them again? I don't think that I'm going to predict that they lose. I'm going to think that they win the AFC West pretty easily. I think they can probably sweep it again. But I do think that the Raiders are going to give them a much better run. And I think the Broncos are going to be in a position to give them a good run too. The Charger defense is still good. It's better than it was. They may have a tougher time scoring points, but I don't feel with a rookie quarterback and the loss of Melvin Gordon that you really have the offense to keep up with the Chiefs. So I think the Chargers might still end up at the bottom of the AFC West this year. Kyle Hilliard, do you think Willie Gay will be better than Derek Johnson? I will not say that, no. He could be, but I'm not ready to go near saying that. Derek Johnson is, one of the best linebackers in franchise history. And I think if Willie can focus on being a professional, I think he can get close to that level, but I'm not going to say he's going to surpass him until I see him on the field against NFL competition. Stevie Keys, thanks for your super chat. Appreciate the support. Is it just me, or does CH's ability to draw defenders and manipulate them where he wants them remind you of Pat's ability to do the same at quarterback? He reminds me of the running game complement to Pat. Very much so. He's good at sticking his foot in the ground. He cuts very well. He's not a super accelerating guy. He's got decent acceleration. He doesn't have super top end speed. He's got great short area quickness. And if you guys saw the Matrix, that's why we measure that. Short area quickness is change direction inside of a booth, right? Plant your foot and go somewhere else. Make people miss. He by far made the most missed tackles created in college, and that's of his class, and that's significant. I do see what you're saying there. The difference for me is I don't feel that CH is so creative once he's on the run. I think he's good at making the most of what he has, making people miss, but sometimes I'd like him to have a little bit better vision and kind of make some different cuts to try to get better angles for him to make good runs into great runs. Whereas Pat, I think, is best on the scramble. You know what I mean? Making things up as he goes along. Dave Barrow. Oh, shoot. I just scrolled too far, you guys. Hold on a second. Going back. Dave asked, is Deion Yelder has seemed dynamic with a few targets? Why didn't he hit the field more? I'm guessing the offensive learning curve. I think they were more comfortable in Blake Bell because he was a veteran and he had an easier time learning the offense. Mako, do you plan on doing a CEH tape breakdown? I do. I have to be careful. Like the video that went up today had a couple of issues with people claiming the copyright in that thing. So I'm going to do the all 22 from sources that I trust that aren't copyrighted, and that's going to take a little bit longer. Jacob Callahan, who's the best run stopping linebacker on the team? I mean, pure run stopping is probably Damien Wilson. He's the strongest to take on blocks. And I think he's very, very solid. I think Hitch is more consistent. I think Damien will miss a tackle or two more than Hitch will. But Hitch gets moved off the ball more than Wilson does. That's my thought. Nathan Ross, should we pick up Larry Warford? I think it's an interesting conversation, but again, there's just no money to be had. So I think that's the big problem. See, Spencer, could you see Logan Ryan's price drop low enough for the Chiefs to sign him eventually? Yeah, if it comes to August 1st and he hasn't signed a 1-year contract, it could be something that happens. They'd have to do some rigmarole to get that done, though. Stack bundles, Larry Warford's chances, or don't even look. I would still look at him. I think it's worth a rundown. I don't know that he's as athletic as they want at guard, so it might be a bit of a stretch, but it can't hurt to have a conversation. Will Maw, your favorite play from the playoffs? I think mine was the first TD to Williams versus the Texans. Do turn around and fall on the ball with a quarter second to spare and ignite the comeback. That's fair. My problem is that quarter second is he looked too late. That's a missed assignment. That's like in the Super Bowl when Damien didn't even turn around and look for the ball that Pat already had in the air. That was a walk-away touchdown. I think that's another thing that leads towards getting another player at running back, because there are a couple of things that Damien just kind of errs on, and I'm not sure what the reasoning is. My favorite play, I think it's hard to top Wasp. There was one that Tyrann really made where he popped the guy. I can't remember who it was, but he popped the guy to the point that I thought like Tyrann might have hurt himself, and he pops up and stood over him with that kind of, when he gets that ultra straight back. I like seeing that, especially from the littlest dude on the field. I like seeing that. Tyrann Mathieu's come a long way from when he was a rookie, where I did not think he had a draftable grade. I thought he was going to be too much of a headache. That guy has turned his life around, and kudos to him. Metal Rocker X. Good to see you too, bud. My first question is, I saw your footage on Willie Gay, and he reminds me of either DJ or Holly. Your thoughts? A little bit of DJ. Yeah, DJ really learned. DJ was good in college. He had to get great at slipping blocks in the NFL. That's why he didn't play so well early. Willie reminds me of that. He doesn't take on that well, and I think sometimes he gets a little too caught up in being physical when that really shouldn't be his game. I think he's got to learn to use his athleticism more to his advantage, but I think it'll come. Nathan Roth, does Mike Dana get any playing time? I think he will. I think he'll be part of the rotation, probably really sparingly in the early season. But come the end, weeks 10 and after, I think he will be in that rotation a lot more. Jerry Cole, so you're saying that the Chiefs played it safe by not giving big contracts when other teams have done. Yep. Yeah, that's true. That's a very good way to look at it. Now, I mean, it's not a contract, but they are tied into the franchise tag on Chris Jones, and that is a tough one. It puts him at a disadvantage because it really is the worst case scenario in that they don't have the advantage of having the player long term and being able to reduce his salary, and they don't have the ability to trade him and get younger players at more positions. So it's tough. It's a really tough situation. Cole Keeler, do you see Breedlin ended up being cut? If he's convicted, he'll be cut. If it comes out that there was conspiracy in any of this, he will be cut. I think they're going to give him a chance. The Chiefs want to give their players a chance. And Breedlin has some points in that stop. There's 3 suspects. 2 of them drive off, and the one guy in the nicest car stays there, and he's the one that gets donked for it. So, I mean, but let's be real. You broke the law in several ways, including resisting arrest, and I think that's hard for him to get out of. So, if he's convicted or there's anything more to it, I think you'll see him be waived. Jason, how are you? Sajalon, I'm going to call it. I hope that's even close. Sorry, man. Will Darwin Thompson make the roster this year? That's a very good question. I think he might be on the bubble. I think he might be one that gets cut in the hope of getting him to the practice squad. That's my guess. But I do feel like this is the year for him to take a step forward. So if he competes with DeAndre Washington in particular, and maybe even Darryl, if he can really put in a good preseason whenever they get it, maybe that they'll be able to do that. Jason, thanks for your super chat. I appreciate that. I hope that answer solves it for you. Metal Rocker, I have heard that Clyde being compared to the likes of Priest Holmes, that he's going to be Casey's new version of Holmes. Your thoughts on that? Or would you say that he's another Charles? He's not another Charles. He's not a home run hitter. I can understand part of the thing about Priest, but I'm very hesitant to make that comparison because Priest was able to accelerate when there was a gap because of how good his line is. This line isn't that good. This line is a different type of line as well. You don't have the Brian Waters or the Casey Wigmans to stick your face in and run behind. You got to get to the edges. You got to let those guys be athletes because it's more of his own scheme than it was then. I think Clyde is more of who Clyde is. I'm not going to compare him to another Chiefs back. I do like his lower body strength, though. I do think that he runs. Everybody wishes Kareem Hunt was still here, right? I get that all the time. I don't see it. I don't think he's a person that I want in my organization. But Clyde Edwards, his lower body strength and his ability to drive through blocks reminds me a little bit of Kareem Hunt. His ability to make people miss. Kareem took more contact and still bounced off and had that contact balance. Well, Clyde doesn't have to do that. Clyde makes people miss him. But again, the missed tackle thing is similar as well. So if you want to compare him to anybody, he's like a smaller version of Kareem. And he catches the ball really well. So that's a good point of comparison as well. Scott Smith, any talk of trades? No, it's pretty much dead in the water at this point. I don't think anybody's going to give up any capital. I don't think anybody's going to spend any drastic money until they know what the season's going to look like. Darryl Miller, thank you for your super chat. I'm hoping you got a question below. I'll try to get back to it. Why not? Do you think that Sean Wade, Patrick Surtain, what do you think about Sean Wade, Patrick Surtain for us next year? Pat Surtain is a guy that popped for me 2 years ago on film. He is at the top of my cornerback list for 2021 right now. I don't think he's going to be there when the Chiefs get to pick. I think the Chiefs will be picking somewhere above 26. Will they make it to a Super Bowl again and pick in the 30s? I don't know. But I don't think Pat Surtain's going to be there. Even if they don't play a college season, I think he's already so high in this class. I think he's out of the Chiefs' range. Casey Chiefs, isn't it the defensive back room and isn't Tyrann the leader? Neiman isn't a slot corner. I never said Neiman was a slot corner. Neiman's a nickel linebacker. And they often play together. But no, it's not a defensive back room. There's a safety room and there's a cornerback room. It's not all defensive backs together. They watch very, very different aspects of film. And so the leader in the room is the cornerbacks. And right now it's Travarius Ward. He's the elder statesman in there without Bashad Breeland around. Tyrann's in the safety room. Now, maybe they switch that up. You can certainly do that. If they feel that they have more strength at safety and they were going to play Tyrann at nickel, maybe he switches over. Who knows? He can study film pretty much anywhere, but I think he's better at directing traffic from the safety position. And I think he's better training Juan Thornhill to do the same thing because your safeties are really your field generals for the secondary. They're going to help line you up. They're going to see things that the corners can't. These corners are manned up, concentrated on a receiver. So that's really what you want to see. But no, Casey Chiefs, the secondary is split into two rooms. Casey 69, could you see us going undefeated this year if everything falls right? Man, that's a tall order. I'm going to say no just because it's so low probability. They're going to lose to somebody. Cold Killer, if it comes down to Hitchens or DOD, who gets cut and why? It'll be DOD because he has so much less value and they can't save anything by cutting Hitchens. They get zero cap space back, so there's no reason to do it. So that's where I think it will come. Jay Kane, any word on Thornhill starting week 1? He says he's back on track, and if that's true, then he would be ready for a camp. There's no way to tell whether that means he's ready week 1 or not. You got to get out there. You got to test it. He says he's cleared to run. That's a good sign. But until you get on the practice field, you start taking reps. You know, there's always that wear and tear. There's always getting that joint back into used to taking that pounding. And with ACLs, the recovery has sped up over the years. but a lot of players don't seem to be fully recovered until 2 seasons removed. So keep that in mind. I can't say how it'll go, but that's just something to keep thinking about. Casey K69, who do you think will be our biggest competition in the division? I think the Broncos are going to be tough. I agree with you. I think the Raiders might actually have a leg up on them, though. I think the Raiders are going to be able to put up a lot more points than they used to. I know everybody's down on Carr, but Carr's got weapons now, weapons that he can rely on, I think. And Chiefs can't run with Ruggs. Even the fastest corners can't run with Ruggs. So we're going to see what happens. Marshall Smith, how are you? Rookie of the year potential for Clyde if Damien is injured. Yeah, I mean, that's where it goes. Clyde's a very good back, and in this system, he should be set up to excel, especially in the passing game, but running as well. He can hide behind these athletic linemen and get angles, and I really like that aspect. As a fit, there's nobody better for these Chiefs. But it will take Damien getting hurt, I think. You're absolutely right. Without that, I just don't think he'll get the touches. They'll try to play balance, and they'll try to give him both some touches, and I think that'll just limit his possibilities. Shoot. Scrolling too far again. Oh, thank you, by the way, Marshall, for the donation. The super chats really help you guys. Nathan Roth, does Dorsey have a job? No, not that I know of. He's still out there. Kevin Pippen, toughest opponent the Chiefs will face this season. It might be the Raiders and the Broncos. I don't know. Who else are they playing? It's not going to be Carolina. I think Tampa Bay is going to be markedly better, but I'm not ready to call them, a playoff team. I'm not ready to call them a Super Bowl contender. I don't care that it's Tom Brady. Yes, he's got Godwin, he's got Mike Evans to throw to, but show me him taking some snaps before we crown Tampa Bay as the winner of that division, because I'm not so convinced. Who else? I think the Dolphins have done some really good things, but I don't think they're ready to compete with the Chiefs. Yeah, Saints, man. Saints. Ooh, Lordy, the Saints. Metal Rocker, which tight end in next year's draft do you see the Chiefs drafting Kelsey's eventual replacement? And how would the offense be if we had Kelsey and Tony Gonzalez play together with Mahomes? It'd be crazy if they ever did that. I would love to see that just as a pickup game. That'd be fun. And I haven't looked at the tight ends for next year yet, Metal. This tight end class was so abysmal, I probably should have, but I haven't. I always start with the big four. QBs, edge rushers, cornerbacks, and left tackles. Then I get around to everybody else. Let's see. Bradley Havens, most improved player on both sides of the ball. Most improved. For next year, you mean after this season or to this point? I'm going to go with to this point. I would say Rashad Fenton came a long way. I like what he did as a rookie. And you can't hold anything against Mccoy Hardman. For how many targets he got, I think it was like 45. What he did was pretty impressive. Yes, he's still got a ways to go in terms of how to run a route and how to stack a corner, when to make side adjustments. There are things to learn, but you got to give him credit. Jake S., would you rather go to Miami or Tampa Bay game if you had to choose? Ooh, that's a good one. Man, that's close. I guess I would go Tampa Bay, but that's a close one. Jake Kane, top free agent CB you would sign. I would interview Eli Apple. He had a lot of potential coming out of college. He's got good speed, I think more than Logan Ryan. But he's got an attitude problem, or at least he has in the past. If you can get past that, does he get a second chance? Is he one of those guys like Veach likes, a first-round talent that you can take off the scrap heap and reconfigure, readjust to get him going? I would look at him first and then Logan Ryan. But I'd be looking at both of them before camp. Marshall Smith, thank you again. Confident in Fenton, Mathieu, Sorensen in the slot. Sorensen, not at all. Sorensen cannot play slot. He'll get destroyed. He couldn't even cover Kyle Juszczyk last Super Bowl. Go look at what he did. No. Missed tackles, out of alignment. No, he is not a corner.
I prefer Mathieu in the nickel and Fenton outside myself. The Chiefs seem to think that Fenton is a good nickel. I think he is good, but I think he gives up short area quickness that he then has to make up for. I think eventually that's going to bite him. You saw Keenan Allen take advantage of him inside on the nickel pretty good last year, but he came back and made plays. So, I mean, it's 6-1. But I think if all things go to plan and you don't have Breeland, I think you put Fenton on the outside and you put Tyrann at nickel and you play with the other safeties. And then Sorensen becomes your box safety. Nathan Roth, which UDFA contracts what do UDFA contracts look like? Are they just 1-year deals? Yes, they are 1-year deals for the vast majority, and they are mostly signing bonus and minimum. So that's pretty much where you can get a player is by giving him more cash up front. That's why they tell you when a guy gets more than $100,000 as a signing bonus, because that's a big deal. Terry Spurman, who will be the second or third string QB? I think Henny will be the backup, barring injury. And Tamu might be pushing without Shermer around. I think Tamu is going to be the third. I don't think Shea Patterson really has much of a chance. Jay Kane, heard Therese and Charles talking about Alex Smith could be a great coach. Let's see him coaching Mahomes in 17 years. And I said the same thing the other night when I first watched it. I don't want to see Alex Smith come back and play again. I think he can. I don't want to see it because I think another injury would be catastrophic to his life, not just his playing career. I do think Alex Smith can not only be a good coach of quarterbacks, I think he can be an excellent coordinator. I think he understands the game at a level that impressed Andy Reid, and that is good enough for me to say he can call plays. He can design offenses to exploit defenses in a very effective way. So I agree. I want to see him as a coach. Let's see. Wolverine, thanks for your super chat. How many reps should and will Javarius Sneed see in 2020? Reps as a whole on the year? I mean, I think Ward, who is the primary corner, only saw 800 snaps total because they do rotate enough. So I'm going to say if you get 400 or 500 snaps out of Sneed, that's probably what you will see. He probably needs a little less than that, but he's going to be forced into action if they don't have Breeland. Marshall Smith, thank you again. Over or under on 6 ints for Mathieu this year? Well, he claims that he dropped 8 last season. I couldn't find that many. I did count 4 that he didn't get his hands on. So 6 might be right about where it is, man. I'm going to be optimistic and take the over on 6 ints for Tyrann Mathieu in 2020. Stephen Cranmer, do you think Sammy Watkins will perform like a wide receiver 1 this year, or at least play a bigger role? Bigger role, yes. Wide receiver 1, no. In fact, somebody asked me about this. If you guys don't know, I'm a Navy brat, so I spent time in Chicago when we were stationed at Great Lakes, and my late high school years were around when Scottie Pippen and Michael Jordan were doing their thing, and I think Tyreek Hill is the Scottie Pippen of this team. I think Tyreek Hill is the number 2 guy. Without him, I think the offense really changes. I love what Kelsey does. He might be the Horace Grant. I hate to change that matter. I'm so sick of the basketball metaphor in general, but when you're talking about who is like the steps in the engine, that's what I see. See, Spencer, do you think they will re-sign Anthony Sherman? They did. If you mean for 2020, they did re-sign him. Will he come back again? I think they're just playing it by ear. If he remains uninjured, yeah, my money would be on him returning yet again. Have you watched Mitch in the Kitch, Nathan Roth? I caught one of them. I think he was doing fajitas, the one that I saw. Mitch is pretty good. I enjoy him in general. He has kind of a dry sense of humor to me, but I cook for my family. I'm the main cook in my house. So I appreciate what he does. Shannon Chavez, where does Sherman and Lovett fit in? Sherman is the classic fullback. He can go out to the H, that Secondary tight end. I think that's where Lovett's going to make his money. I think he has a chance to be special. He has a chance to wash out a league too. I really want to see what he comes back with post-injury. Before the injury, athletically, he was on par with Kyle Juszczyk. I think he's a smart guy, and I want to see what he's able to do. I'm pretty high on his possibilities. I just don't know how he's going to be after the injury. Robert Lane. Do you ever see Veach trading back? I'm going to keep saying yes, but I just don't know when I'm going to be right. Jaden Taylor, do you think Darryl Williams could end up replacing? Shoot, I scrolled too far. That's what I get for scrolling while I'm reading. Hold on, I'm getting back. Oh, good Lord. There we go. Do you think Darryl Williams could end up, Darryl with a Y Williams, end up replacing the starting center position in the O-line? I think it's a possibility. I'm not huge on Ryder, however you pronounce his name. I think he's good, but he's not as much upside as I want. Now, Darryl's athletic, but he's not super athletic, so they might be really, in fact, I should do a comparison on this too. But I think that's kind of a toss-up. I got to see some big growth out of Darryl Williams. I think he has potential and upside, but I got to see it happen. Marshall Smith, thank you again. Can Will Gay Jr. ever fix his overeager block shedding that Dan Harms pointed out by playing next to Mathieu? I don't think so. Tyrann Mathieu isn't going to help him shed blocks better. I think what he's got to do is he's got to get with Hitch. I think that's exactly what they will do. And he's got to play. He's either got to learn not to engage in where he has to stack and shed, or he's got to play through guys more. He's got to use his ability to accelerate to play through. I mean, he's got to rip. He's got to use those arms to rip through would-be blockers. That's my opinion. Derek Newson, do you feel that more teams will be making the playoffs? Do you think that allows teams like the Chiefs to do more on the side of caution when deciding starting players with nagging injuries? That's an interesting concept. I hadn't thought of that. I think it definitely would. Here's the only caveat is if you're a team like the Chiefs, you want that Super Bowl, you want to repeat and get more championships, you have to push for that number one seed. And with only one bye going to the number one seed, I think that will make some teams push that. Nathan Roth, will we get compensatory picks next year? I think they probably will. They didn't sign many. They lost Fuller. They lost Ogba. I can't remember who else, but they lost enough guys. Yeah, I think they're going to get a fourth is my guess. They might get a third. I don't know. Morgan Chiefs fan, how are you? Oregon Chiefs Chris, sorry. Do you think that Pringle could step into Sammy's role with another year under his belt? I wonder if bringing D-Rob hurts his chances to get on the field. D-Rob maybe hurt his chance a little bit, but I do see the two of them in competition, and I like Pringle's upside. In a pinch, he could be playing in Sammy's role, but he can't do the things that Sammy does. He doesn't have that kind of acceleration and speed, so it's an adjustment. And I think at the end of the day, I think he's probably going to be in that fourth, fifth role eventually. I think D-Rob will be gone again next season, so it is. I just don't know if he can excel to that point. Yes, Marshall. Patrick Surtain, the second's father, Patrick Surtain, did play for the Chiefs and the Dolphins. Cole Keeler, considering how full the running back room is, what do you think of the Chiefs trading Williams for a 7th-round pick or maybe a 6th? I think for those level picks, I think it's better to keep the player in case of injury to him or someone else or whatever. I'd rather keep the cupboard stocked than a future 6th. They're trying to get rid of 5th and 6th. The Chiefs are actually following my strategy pretty consistently. You saw what they did to get Bo Peep. They moved up and gave up, I think it was a 6th, because the 6th and 7ths are pretty much UDFA level that you just really like. So you want picks between 2 and 5. That's where the sweet point is, where you're getting super value and upside. So you can trade out of the first and still get really good players, because in any given draft, there's really only 15 or so, maybe 20 first-round eligible guys that are really worth that grade. Hot and spicy. Would you sign Aqib Talib? No, I would not. I am a Jayhawk. I support the Jayhawks. I do not like Talib. I never have. Didn't like him when he was at KU, and I wouldn't want him on this roster. Take that. Gary Cole. No, that's not a question. Sorry. Don Decker, first timer. Welcome. I think Darwin makes the roster. Yeah, I think it's really close, and he very well may. I think the problem is if they cut DeAndre Washington, I don't think he's eligible for the practice squad, whereas Darwin is. So I think that might be the determining factor. But I think that room's in pretty good shape. That's pretty competitive at this point. So if he doesn't make the roster, don't hold it against him. Okay, we're getting down to the end, guys, and 55 minutes. We're doing pretty great. 200 people in here on an off season. I like that. Thanks for spreading the word. Oregon Cheese Chris, with typical timeline being so much in flux with newer players, get a bit of a pass on their progression. I mean, we have to remember that. I think the team definitely will give them a pass on where they have to be because they haven't gotten any of the indoctrination. No rookie mini camps, no OTAs. Their first exposures are going to be training camp. That's going to be tough. Chris Weichman, considering the DB struggles we might have this year, is it in the realm of possibility that they get EB back and move a safety to corner? EB being Eric Berry? No. They have no interest in signing Eric Berry. They know what he has in the tank, and they are not interested in spending the money. Eric's not going to play for peanuts. He's not going to play for vet men. He wants to get paid if he comes back. I'm not so sure that he's physically capable, so I really don't see it happening, Chris. Nathan Altick, welcome back. May have answered this already, but what do you think of the Chiefs signing Warford? I think it's worth exploring. I'm not sure he's got the athleticism that they want, but they've gone a couple of different directions lately that kind of surprised me. So maybe it's still within the realm of possibility. Jaden Taylor, do you think that Andy Reid could implement John Lovett in more of the offensive snaps this year? Yeah, definitely, since he didn't play at all. He got hurt in, was it camp? Or was it OTAs? I can't remember. It was pretty early on. Yeah, I hope that he's healthy. I hope he's ready for it. So I'm really excited about what John Lovett could be in this offense. Aaron Morrow, what high school did I go to? I went to high school in Seattle. Like I said, I was a Navy brat, and we moved around the country quite a bit. High school for me was Seattle, a little town where Microsoft lives called Redmond. Jerry, why did we cut Shermer just to sign a UDFA Patterson? That's a very good question, and one that I do not necessarily have the answer to. I was surprised by it. I thought Shermer had done enough that they wanted to keep him around. I don't see much in Shea Patterson. He's a camp arm as far as I'm concerned. I don't think he has any relativity in the competition for a roster spot. I think really it might have been a courtesy because Kyle Shermer's put in time here and they wanted to let him go find another home because I think they do feel that Jordan Tama was going to beat him out. Just physically, what he was able to do in the XFL, I think it really gave them the sign that Kyle was not going to make the roster. And Andy's got a good relationship with his dad and with Kyle from what I understand. So I would think that they just kind of let him go for that. Have you ever met Andy Reid or Veach? Nathan, I have not met Brett Veach. I have been in the room with Andy Reid, but I've never shook his hand or anything. So I would say no, I haven't really met either of them. Rob Mulligan, is T-Suggs gone? Yeah, he's out. I expect when the season starts, he's going to sign a one day with the Ravens and retire. That's my guess. Oh, wait, why not? I see a question mark, but I don't see a question. I'll have to follow up there. Sorry. Okay, we're running down to the end, guys. I'm going to speed through the rest of these. Oh, and Isaiah, looks like you made a super chat. Thank you very much. First one of the last group. John Carter, crazy question. Do players get on IR get Super Bowl rings? Yes, they definitely do. Even practice squad players get Super Bowl rings. Kansas Carolina, 49ers, Fred Warner, and KC's Derek Nottie were both third-round picks. Who would you have chosen when, if both were available? I had them both in the third. No. Yeah, I had Fred Warner at the bottom of the third. I had Derek right about the same place. I can't remember if he slipped into the top of the fourth or not. And I probably would have taken Warner because he's an athletic linebacker, and I wanted linebackers at the time. Looking back on it, I think Derek Notty's a much better lineman than he was in college, and he has developed very well. I think he's better than what his college film showed, so I'm glad they did what they did. Tim Countryman, taking out the schools that they came from, who's the better corner, Snead or Bo Pete as of now? I have to go with Snead because I can't see much of Bo Pete. The film that I've seen on him is a lot of it is field level. I haven't gotten all 22 on him. Snead is better in my opinion. But I don't think that it's a drastic margin. I think Bo Pete's a little raw, but he's certainly got the athleticism. He's got the length. I think he's got the attitude. I've seen him be kind of spicy, and I think that's important. So I think it's a great pick. I wish they didn't have to give up an extra pick to get him, but hey, I think both of them are guys that can develop and make this roster. Nathan Altick, any chance of a roster prediction video? Yeah, I'm sure I'll have one eventually. Once we get a little closer, early July, I'll probably have a roster prediction. I mean, Matt asked me to do one for Chiefs Digest. I might actually do that. Maybe I'll do that in June. Yeah, I'll get you something. Isaiah Cherez, thank you for your super chat. This is your question. Love the CEH pick. I think he will do wonders for our D. Look at the Colts Texans game. Time of possession killed us, and not being able to get those third and shorts and give us a fresh set of downs. About 5 more first downs a game. 5 more, that might be a stretch, but I agree with you in the short yardage. I like the way that he picks his way through a zone block scheme, and that's what they did at LSU. I do feel like he's got enough drive in that lower body, and he plays with leverage because he's shorter. I do like him in short yardage. I think that's going to be definitely a pickup and something that hopefully his line can live up to, because I'm very disappointed in Reader's short yardage work. I mean, quite frankly, LDT wasn't as good as he normally is. Maybe that's lingering injury as well. And Noah Wiley's got to play lower, and he's got to get more drive. Those interior 3 have got to get better at short yardage. That's just my opinion. Thomas Lester, is L'Jarius Sneed a bigger, faster version of Kendall Fuller? No, not at all, in my opinion. Sneed can actually play jam. I think he's good in man coverage, and I think he's a guy that knows where the player wants to go and has the acceleration to get there. Kendall Fuller was never speedy enough to recover, to run a route with a receiver. He had to have an advantage. That's why he was better in zone with the Redskins, and that's why he was better at safety for the Chiefs. So, no, they're not anywhere near the same player, in my opinion. Adam Russell, you might have answered this, but what would training camp look like after COVID-19? Also, what games are you going to go to this year? Camp is going to be a big question mark. If it starts on time, which I doubt, they may not let fans show. That's going to be a significant issue. It may have a factor to do with what both Western Missouri and the state of Missouri say. So that's a big question mark. And I will definitely be at the Chiefs game here in Denver. I don't know if I'm going to travel back this year. My family and whatnot, we have a couple of people that are a little bit more prone to viruses. So I can't really take a chance at traveling on planes. I'm not comfortable with that right now. Maybe things change, but I expect the virus to come back in the fall with a vengeance, to tell you the truth. And I don't think I'm going to be chancing airplanes at the time, but you never know. Aaron Morrow. Oh, I thought you said something about high school in Chicago. No, I was stationed there early. But no, that I was junior high in Chicago, high school in Seattle. Elementary school was Virginia, Florida, San Diego. I was all over the place. Let's see. Nathan Roth, is Okafor back for week 1? I have no idea. I haven't heard any update on his condition. But a professional like that, a guy that's been through injuries before, I would expect where he was injured, if not week 1, very shortly thereafter. George McClellan, thank you very much. Nathan Dunnigan, what's your favorite throw from Pat Mahomes? That no-looker against the Ravens. I swear it looked like he was throwing it sideways. Pono Kwai, how are you, bud? What type of schemes do you see Andy running as far as dual backs with CH and Damien? How opposing defense can plan this upcoming offensive tsunami? I like the tsunami reference. I would love to see dual backs. I asked for that last year. I don't think I see Andy doing it that much. I would love to see some straight T, like the Whirly Bird play in the Super Bowl, where they were all lined up in the backfield and then one motioned out. I'd love to see that, get them both on the field. I also think that Lovett and Sherman could play that role too, and you get a little bit more power. I'd like to see them rotate and do all kinds of craziness back there, because I think there's just too many teams that can't deal with the athleticism. Deldrick Smith, do you think the NFL teams will be motivated if they play without fans? I know they're still getting paid. Honestly, I think it'll be a more raw game. I think it'll be rougher. The fans are one thing, but I think at the end of the day, you play for your teammates, and there might be a transition there. But at the end of the day, I think they're going to hit harder. I think they're going to play a little nastier. I think it's going to be a lot more raw, in my opinion. Nathan Altic, with CH, does he finally put an end to the question of will Kareem Hunt? I don't know, Nathan. I plan, honestly, of people asking me about Kareem Hunt returning the Chiefs for probably the rest of my life. So I'm resigned at this point. Low Lip, you're back. Just heard today's Locked On episode. I guess Kyle Krabs only wanted to talk about the Dolphins, huh? Yeah, I mean, it's one of those deals. We did do another segment for him to put on his show. You guys hear me talk about the Chiefs all the time. I'm trying to give you intel on what the opponents are doing. I will post the whole thing to the podcast channel tomorrow so you can hear both sides on the podcast YouTube channel. So check that out too. The Locked On Network, we set all these up because they have hosts for all the shows. It's kind of a formulated thing where you're trying to get intel on the other team. Stephen Maddox got here late. Is the player suspended? Does his salary count against the cap? Yes, it does. Do you think Clyde Edwards, low lip again, do you think Clyde will be better than Kareem was? I think he has the chance to be. At the end of the day, I think because I don't expect him to get off on a bad run, and I don't expect him to have off-field issues. So I do think that Clyde has the opportunity for a better career than Kareem. Justin Seymour, do you, if you could add one of these players to the primetime defense, who would it be? Tamba or DJ? DJ in a heartbeat. I like Tamba, but DJ is much better suited to today's NFL. Tamba's a good pass rusher, but Tamba was never the fastest pass rusher. In today's NFL, where they get the ball out in 2.3 seconds, I don't think he has a chance to really affect the passer that well. I think DJ would have a much better chance. John Carter, have you read Matt Derrick's At Last book? Sitting right there. And folks, if you haven't, Matt Derrick is somebody we work with, a good friend. Check out this At Last. You can get it at Triumph Books. My discount code is no longer working. It was only good through May 1st, but At Last, go give it a shot. Thanks for bringing that up. I always forget to do that. Thank you. Last question. Pono Kawhi. Why didn't Brett give Pennell a better deal? He was a difference maker. I agree with you. He was a difference maker, and he didn't give him a better deal because he didn't have to. He's going to be 30 years old this season. Defensive linemen don't go a whole lot beyond that. He is a run first, not a huge pass rush threat. There wasn't a market, so he gave him market value. And I think he was happy with that. So don't hold it against him. It's just the market is what it is, and teams don't overpay, especially a team like this that doesn't have room to overpay. So we're well over tonight, guys. And thank you all for hanging out. Big hand to Aaron Morrow and all of you for being here. Memberships are coming. Get ready for those. I'll have more for you this week. Some crossover stuff. I'm looking at Snead in film next. I hope that you guys have a great week. Thanks for checking this one out. Next one Wednesday, and I'll talk to you next time.